This program was created in part utilizing the Sound Collection Lab located in the History, Social Sciences, Philosophy Department on the campus of the University of Arkansas at Fort Smith. The views expressed herein do not necessarily reflect the views of the Department of History, Social Sciences, Philosophy, or its faculty, or the University of Arkansas at Fort Smith.
Hey, this truck like it's getting ready to move here. I couldn't see if it was him or not.
Don't see Mr. Interstate.
Hey, can you stay with police real quick?
10-4-12.
Joey McCUTCHEN, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. It's my honor to have you, and I'm very excited about this episode. There's so much to talk about, Lord have mercy. So I'm Bill Hollenbeck, and along with my co-host Kevin Jones, professor and scholar and everything else here at the University of Arkansas at Fort Smith.
Thank you, Bill.
We are here at the Sound Collection Lab here at the University of Arkansas at Fort Smith. So very excited to have you here, like I said. So what I normally do, I kind of start off with our guest, kind of going through a bio to kind of let our audience know who you are and some of the things that you have accomplished throughout your adult career and so forth. So just a little bit about Joey. Now let me tell you something. I'll preface this. There's pages upon pages of things that Joey McCUTCHEN has done successfully in his career, and I'm going to have to narrow it down. So forgive me if I don't throw anything out there that you really want the world to know about you. But
well, you can skip it all if you want.
No, that's no way. We're gonna go a little bit into it. So Joey McCUTCHEN received his BA in zoology from the University of Arkansas at Fayetteville. He went on to earn his Juris Doctorate degree from the University of Arkansas at Fayetteville Law School and a Master's of Theology from Harvard University. That's pretty cool. That is not bad at all. He's licensed to practice in both Arkansas and Oklahoma. Joey is a Fort Smith native for the most part. His family has a long history of this area, from Greenwood to Mansfield, from I think 1871, I think I read, or so forth, and I'll get a little bit into that. But he founded the law office of Joey McCUTCHEN with two unbending principles. First, that the law firm would only represent injured consumers and would never represent insurance companies, and would never represent insurance companies or big businesses, excuse me. And
it's
second,
easy for you to say.
It is. And that every case is taken and prepared as if they were going to go to trial. So that's a lot of work. There's a lot of attorneys that I know personally that prep for a settlement rather than going to being prepared to go to trial. So very, very thorough. So you should be commended on that. Joey's also credited with winning the largest medical malpractice case in Sebastian County history. He also won the largest automobile accident judgment in Sebastian County history. He also founded the Next Level Sports. It's a sports marketing and representation agency for aspiring athletes.
Well, college coaches.
And college coaches.
Yeah, we don't represent players. We represent college coaches all over the country.
Well, thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate that. Joey is also on the Arkansas Trial Lawyers Association Board of Governors. He provides leadership for the organization with over 800 trial lawyers around the state of Arkansas, and I'm sure in Oklahoma perhaps. Also, he is the founder of the Arkansas Consumer Advocacy Group, which is really, really neat. 2013, in Arkansas legislative session, Joey spent more than 6 weeks at the state capitol, probably on his own dime, fighting against the adoption of SJR 5, which basically would take legal rights away from Arkansans when it comes to some sort of tort issue that they're trying to recover from an injury or other type of tort, I would imagine. He's a member of the bar in Arkansas and Oklahoma, the American Association for Justice and the American Bar Association. And here's something that's kind of close to my heart, because I was a boys club member as a child. But in 2010, he was honored.
Me too.
By really?
Yes.
Awesome, man. But in 2010, he was honored by being inducted into the Fort Smith Boys Club Hall of Fame.
Yes.
He's a charter member of the Boys and Girls Club Alumni Association and was the organization's first president. And I can just go on and on and on about the accolades. But again, going back to his heritage, he's closely tied to Western Arkansas. The McCutcheon family took up residency in Scott County in 1871. His paternal grandfather, Herbert Doc McCutcheon, was a prominent dentist in Mansfield, and for well over 50 years. His maternal grandfather, Gene Williamson, was the owner and operator of a service station in Greenwood, Arkansas for over 50 years as well. Joey's father, Joe McCutcheon, was the owner and founder of Joe McCutcheon Pharmacy, later called the McCutcheon Health Services in Fort Smith. And you have two daughters, is that correct? Are they still in college? Or
No,
are they,
no, they're out in
now?
the workforce
Out in
now.
the workforce, there you go.
Let 'em
great.
loose.
Cut them loose, there you go. So, you know, I was thinking about this interview,
Yeah.
and you know, I kind of, you know, without sounding like a stalker, you know, I kind of follow a lot of things that you've been involved in, you know, and in some of the cases, you know, we're spot on. In some cases, we're a little bit apart and so forth. But one of the things that man, I just respect about Joey McCutcheon is what he does for the little person.
Yes.
You know, I was looking up how to describe them, some definitions, but you know, I came up with you know, a person who takes up a cause to right a wrong can be called a champion, an advocate, or activist. You know, also they can be called a crusader. You know, someone who engages in like a vigorous campaign for a moral or a political cause, trying to do the right thing. But what I've also noticed is he's taken up for the underdog. There's several people that I know personally that you have represented pro bono in situations where their job is threatened or something is they're being treated unfairly at their workplace or other issues that I won't get into, but I do know
Right.
personally some of these issues. But again, you know, we've been on the opposite ends of a couple conversations, but at the end of those conversations, we realize that we're a lot more aligned than we're apart. And going along that thought process, that's kind of where I wish our country could understand is we're all Americans. I don't care if you're far right or you're far left. Most of us are here. Most of us lean a little right over here. The same person that leans a little left. This person who's leaning left on this little issue may lean a little bit of right. So we're all in it together. And no matter who it is, you defended these people. So I want to say thank you for what you've done, some of the things you've done for the community. You know, I know that when you show up to a board meeting at Fort Smith, you know, there is a pucker factor that starts to develop, you know, but as elected officials, as I know, guess what? We're held to a higher standard.
Right.
We should be held accountable. And just because we're being held accountable doesn't mean you're a bad guy. I mean, that's what makes our democracy great, because the people, which we forget, are the ones who are supposed to rule.
Sounds like a state motto.
Well,
Yeah,
exactly. So, you know, board of directors, whoever, when you see Joe, he's not the enemy. He's holding you accountable.
Right.
And guess what? That's what you signed up for. And that's how it should be. The people should be able to speak. So, man, we've got a lot to unpack. I mean, there's so many things going on, you know, from the prison fiasco or your verbiage of the boondoggle, you know. I was texting you the day before yesterday while you were in Little Rock saying, are you watching what I'm watching? And I was watching this legislative committee going over some of the issues that Arkansans, specifically from Charleston, have issues with, legitimate issues, and I've kind of kept up with it, you know. But this hearing, the two individuals in that hearing laid it out so eloquently. It was amazing. So we're also going to talk about Charlie Kirk. We're going to talk about the City of Fort Smith consent decree. We're going to talk a little bit about the mayor's budget, and also we're going to talk about Coach Curry from Portsmouth Public Schools. Somebody who I admire greatly.
Yeah.
Coached my son in football. I kind of, heard a little bit about that, but I would love to hear a little bit of the inside story. But if you're willing to talk about that,
I am.
So let's first of all, let's
is. I texted you the other day to say, "Are you watching this legislative hearing?" You said, "I'm here," and I said, "Well, I should have known that." So tell me your thoughts about that hearing yesterday. The two people who put it out, I don't recall their names, but they were so eloquent on what they put out and showed the state of Arkansas, how inept we have been at trying to develop this mega prison.
Yeah, I think one of the things that really struck me about this committee meeting was the governor's staff was supposed to be there. Senior advisor who has been involved in this prison at every stage, and he just skipped out. And frankly, the governor gave him permission to skip out, and I think many of the legislators thought that was a slap in the face, and I 100% agree. Just because the absolute lack of transparency.
Right.
It's really something that over the years I've looked at transparency in every
what
aspect.
did Brian King say? I think he's a senator, or
He is.
he's a senator.
Yeah.
Senator
State
King.
senator. Yeah.
Basically, he said we're probably going to get Epstein here to testify before we could get Proferi here to show up.
Wow.
That's a profound statement.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they voted to subpoena him, and it didn't pass. And so personally, I think a roll call should have been called to determine who made that vote. And I think now the citizens are entitled to know who voted no on that.
Oh, absolutely, no joke. It's and who is this guy? This guy apparently was from Arizona, was running a prison system, and the governor brought him in to be the secretary of the Department of Corrections, I believe.
Correct.
And within months, there's already a power struggle between the board and Joe Proferi to the point where they fire him. It's I mean, the essence of leadership, and this is a quote, and I can't remember who says it, is supposed to be vision. And that vision is something that you should be able to project and get buy-in. And, I was reading, I think it was Arkansas Times, where it basically, some of it boiled down to was, hey, we got to put more people in prison. And they're saying, well, probably so, but we don't have the space and we don't have the staff, where they're like down 20 or 30% staffing. Nobody wants to grow up to become a prison guard, right? It's difficult to get that type of person. They're great people, but it's a hard gig.
Hard job.
And so they're saying we just can't start shoving more people in. It's not safe to the staff. It's not safe for the prisoners. It's not safe for the public.
Yeah.
And it gets so volatile, they fire them.
Well, I think the crux of the matter is he was accountable to the Board of Corrections, and he was doing the governor's bidding.
Right.
So they ended up firing him. But I think the punchline on that is she hired him back to the tune of $186,000, created another position, but he's continued to in essence run this boondoggle in Franklin County.
Goodness gracious. And what's odd about that is when he took over as the secretary, he was making more money than the previous secretary.
Right.
And now the new secretary that has come in is not making that much money either. Now, I believe she is making less money than that. And then I read in the Times where he's making more money than the governor's chief of staff. What's going on here?
Well, didn't you get into public service for the money, Bill?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got rich over that.
Well, then they hire a consulting firm for $16.5 million.
Right.
And they did absolutely no due diligence before purchasing a $3 million piece of property. Didn't know if there was water, infrastructure.
Right.
And that's really concerning.
Oh, absolutely. Joey, now correct me if I'm wrong on this, because I thought I heard this. and maybe you heard it or not, but they had the contract under contract for this piece of property before they hired this consulting firm, which part of their process was to go out and vet these places. So, so what are we paying for? What are we paying for?
Yeah, well, according to some FOIA documents, we're paying for a lot of expensive meals and that type of thing. But yeah, it's the whole thing has been bass-ackward, so to speak.
Good term.
You know, and you know, being a retired sheriff, I know for a fact we need more bed space. Okay,
Sure.
So what happens, Kevin? You probably know this as well. Is somebody is sentenced to the Arkansas Department of Corrections, the sheriff's office or the sheriff is responsible for holding these prisoners in a county jail
And transportation.
until the state says, okay, we'll take them. So now we have to transport their prisoners to the state prison. But what's happening is they're not saying bring them because they're overcrowded in the state prison, which causes overcrowding in the county jail, which means now as sheriff, you know, I need room for bad guys, right? You know, but sorry, now we're having to bond out bad guys because the state is taking up all the inmate space.
Sure.
So I believe we need
And
more
your
space
budget.
in our right. Well, and we're being reimbursed.
Oh, okay.
You know, but slightly. But the point is, there's no doubt. But you know, somebody who has kind of come up through this process, Lee Watson, I got to say that I'm extremely impressed with his courage to come up and say, hey, maybe we need to do this.
Lee's a good guy.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with Lee, and I think he's been rational and reasonable, and he says, hey, we need more beds. There's no question about that, but this site has problems. That's, you know, who knows what the final figure is. They start at 470 million, and now we're hearing 1.5 billion, and we know what's happened here in Fort Smith. They've come and visited with Fort Smith leaders, and you know, we have our own water transmission issues here. We may have enough water, but we don't have the transmission capabilities, and you know, I think we've been told that somewhere in the neighborhood of 250 million over a 6-year period to get water from Fort Smith to this prison. And so that's just one of the major issues that Adam Watson was one of the people. Natalie Cardina was the other presenter. They did an outstanding job. And one of the things I heard from legislator after legislator was they were really impressed, and they didn't know all of these circumstances. They had to know some of them.
Yeah, well, they were laid out perfectly, and now there's absolutely no excuse for nobody not knowing the circumstances. You know, so the rest of the legislators who weren't at this hearing, I mean, it's all public record now. So I hope that our local legislators as well as our state will see this and understand what a boondoggle it really is, and before we spend so much money, now maybe it's time to punt and look for a more suitable location, or 2 or 3 different smaller locations, or existing locations
that's
and
right.
add on. You know?
Yeah,
Is that normal to have the public in that area so much in the dark about the site?
No, you know, I almost
And
want to say this,
selection.
and it's almost becoming the norm, which concerns me greatly. But it should not be, in my opinion. I mean, you have to have buy-in with the community,
Right.
And when they went through this, they went through a checklist of certain things that they needed to have before a site was suitable. And I think there was only maybe 2 or 3 out of 20 items that, well, okay, we'll be generous and give them this one. But all these other checklists they went through, it just did not match the needs of the Department of Correction.
well, you know, we have checks and balances in our government for a reason.
Right.
And when a governor foists a project like this, a controversial project, on the citizens of Charleston, Arkansas, without then Senator Gary Stubblefield.
What a great
God
man.
bless Gary.
Amen.
And I'm so sorry that he passed away. But he had no knowledge of it. County judges had no knowledge of it. City boards nobody had any knowledge of it. And that's very concerning.
Yes.
And now the pattern's continuing. I mean, as recently as the hearing we've just gone through, where the governor decided that she was not going to allow under oath her senior advisor Joe Porfiry to testify, and we have checks and balances, and it was a slap in the face to every legislator in the building.
Wow, it was, and does she feel as if she's just backed in the corner now? She's got to dig her heels in, or why would you not, as a leader, why would you not want to communicate with your legislators, with your local,
Especially
city
someone who had
and-
such a history of communications.
Oh yeah, great point. That was her job. I mean, that's how you get things done. That's how you govern.
Yeah.
That's how you lead, is by being open and being a good communicator, by bringing people in to the fold, by talking about it and getting their thoughts. I've always told my staff that, man, I'm of average intelligence, but if I could bring 3 or 4 of y'all in, dude, we can make a genius decision, right? So, and that's leadership 101.
Yeah.
How do we demand that?
Well, I think we've got to. She was elected governor, had no opponent, refused to speak to the media, and that's not the way it operates. And it's really disturbing, this pattern of non-transparency on every issue, and thinking that she's dug her heels in, and there's no sign of backing down. Even after, I've always been taught, if you make a mistake, admit it.
Yeah.
People are going to understand that.
Yeah.
Before we get tied in, like an example was given the other day of Utah, they spent millions upon millions, and then were forced to back out. Hey, we're down the millions path right now, but we can back out, find a suitable piece of property,
And everybody wins,
yeah,
including the governor. I mean, as a citizen, I want my governor to succeed. I want our legislators to succeed and do the will of the people and do good for the public. And I don't I hope this will be a wake up call. And we can kind of go in a different direction.
Yeah, I don't see it being a wake up call for this governor. I think she's digging her heels in more. She showed it by the hearing the other day. Even the 2 folks who did testify, they don't think they've made a mistake, even in light of overwhelming evidence in terms of not enough people. We don't have the workforce, we don't have the water, we don't have the roads. I mean, it's just
No
one thing
infrastructure.
after
You're
the
right.
next.
You're
No
right.
infrastructure whatsoever.
It's even hard to even talk about the craziness of this all. I wish, I just hope wisdom will fall upon her. I really do, and our other legislators who supported this. But we got to get this. We got to get it. We got to get high off this high center, because my fear is the strategy is, let's spend some more money on this survey. Let's spend some more money on finding water. Let's spend some more money on transmission lines. And what's going to happen is we're going to be like where Utah was, and millions of dollars into it, and then the legislators are going to be forced to grant her $1 billion to build this prison.
Yeah.
And so it's like you backed them in. Well, we spent, how many times have you had a home project or whatever that didn't quite go the way you wanted? You've already spent so much money. Well, I don't want to stop now. I gotta plow into it and fix my mistakes or whatever. But you keep plowing, and I'm hoping that's not their strategy.
Yeah, the question I would have to the governor is, would you proceed this way if it were your own money? Because when you're spending other people's money, it's easy to do. But when you're spending on your own dime, you may say, look, I didn't know that we were going to have to pay $250 million to pump water into this place. I didn't know it didn't have sufficient roads. I didn't know we didn't have the workforce. But if it's your own dime, you're going to back out in a hurry. So this is what's very concerning. I don't know if it's arrogance or incompetence, but either way, it's concerning, and it's why we have a different branch of government. And legislature on 5 separate occasions refused to fund it, even though they were under massive pressure.
I can't
They
imagine.
were told that you fund it, or you won't be taking money back to your district. I mean, that's a threat. Gary
That's
Stubblefield,
extortion.
and that's what Gary Stubblefield pointed out. He thought it was extortion, and that's not the way you do government.
No, it's
I mean, it's not fair to the people of Franklin County. It's not fair. More so, it's not fair to the entire state of Arkansas, because we're all paying for this.
So, what now? What's the next step, do you think, of trying to correct a wrong?
Well, for example, in Fort Smith, I think Justin Boyd, he voted 5 times. Senator Justin Boyd voted 5 times to fund it. I think that what I have seen, although I'd like for him to be more aggressive in areas, but I asked Justin, do you work for the governor or do you work for your constituents here in Fort Smith? But we've got to put pressure on the legislature. We cannot. This is just a bad piece of property.
Sure.
And
It's almost like a national phenomenon of, again, I don't care if you're conservative, liberal, you're Democrat or Republican, both parties now, the people in office are working for the party, they're not working for the people. And that's what we've got to recenter for our nation. And it's a trickle-down effect, and it's happening here. So it's not about a party, it's about what's right for the state of Arkansas.
It is, but the lack of transparency started from word go with our governor. She tried to decimate FOIA. The people stood up. We talked a little about our state motto, the people rule. I'm a populist. I'm going to stand for the people. I spent days in the Capitol fighting this attempt to literally decimate our ability to get records, our ability to have open meetings. And and she was behind it, and you just got to ask yourself, what are we trying to hide?
Exactly.
And when that occurred, that movement scared me more than anything.
Why?
Kind of just like what he's saying is when it gets to the point where the people who are in the ruling class, the people who are elected or in these positions, when they no longer have to answer to you, what's that called?
Entitlement.
And what else?
Arrogance.
Tyranny.
Tyranny. Thank you. Dictatorship. I don't know. It shouldn't be that way. And thank you for fighting against that. But the other flip side of it is, you know what? If you don't like it, then you vote the person out in 4 years.
That's right.
It doesn't have to be a civil war. It doesn't have to be vile or
violent.
Violent. Now, I believe in protesting. I believe in complete situations such as that. But I mean, we go to the polls to fix something that we don't think is right. We don't get violent.
That's right.
And that's what's great about our country. But when you try to hide something where as a citizen you can't find out what your government is doing, that scares people. And it should.
I agree. It should. And, spent a lot of time in the legislature last session on, again, the Republican Party decimating the people's ability to petition their government through the people's constitutional amendments, passing our own laws. And they literally, put so many hurdles that we could never pass an initiative. And unfortunately, it was special interests were behind it. Some of the folks who are friends of mine on right to life issues, they need to understand that while Republicans may have all the power now and the Democrats are on the outside looking in, at some point that pendulum will change, and Republicans will be saying, "You mean Republicans took away my ability as a citizen to bring an initiative, to bring a people's law?" because there's so many different people's laws that we need. One of the ones I think we need, our health insurance rates, our insurance rates are
Astronomical.
and there's no accountability. And California many years ago passed Prop 103, which basically, if you're going to increase our insurance rates, then you have to come before an elected insurance commissioner. You have to justify that. And we've been hearing some inklings of that, and the governor said, well, you're going to have to take this. But in my opinion, we need a law, whether it's a people's law or whether it's passed in the legislature, that forces insurance company to justify
Raising hikes.
and have a hearing just like we heard where evidence is presented. How much are you paying your CEO? You paying your $20 million a year? Many of them are. So
Yes,
kind
it
of off
needs a
subject,
raise.
but
well, no,
but
that's all areas of concern that sometimes I embarrass myself thinking I wish I was more up to speed on some of the issues such as that. So thanks for educating me on that. I mean, and we all get get caught up in our own lives that we forget about some of these issues that we should be on top of. And it's maybe there's a slight change coming. Who knows? And again, it's I'm not advocating one side or the other, but whoever is in there, do right by us. Just
Right.
do right by us, and we'll support you. But when we start to see things such as this prison, I mean, issues like that, it's people
Just
get tired
thrown
of
at
it.
people.
Yeah.
Out of the blue. It's
Yeah.
like, where did this come from? We
Yeah.
had no say.
Exactly. No joke. Sheesh. Anyway, anything else on the prison issue that you'd like to bring up at all, or?
No, I think you're right. I think we've got to hold people accountable. We've got to hold the governor accountable. She needs an opponent. We had people who were running for governor when she announced that. Tim Griffin bows out.
Yeah.
Leslie Rutledge
Bows
bows
out.
out. Well, we need competition. We need a choice because if the people don't have anybody to vote for, then other than one candidate, then we don't have it. We don't have a choice,
I agree.
especially in the primary.
Yeah. In my little world that I've lived in, when I had to run and when I've seen other sheriffs before me, there's a hazard, there's a trap of after 8 years, I have seen, and not just in sheriff's races, but overall, that it becomes, whether it's a legislator, whether it's a director, it becomes their kingdom,
Right.
and when you don't have that competition, knowing that you have to answer to for what you do for a living and answer, that people then tend to start doing things that they want rather than what the people hired you to do. And I don't know. And when I ran, I told people 8 years because I've learned from watching other people in other offices. It's time. If it's good enough for the president of the United States, it needs to be good enough for even local officials. So I'm kind of a big proponent on term limits. The flip side argument, I guess. Well, all that valuable experience is walking out the door. There's smart people out there that can do it.
Right.
So that's just me. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm for term limits. I don't think anybody ought to have a job, a government job forever. I think you become more concerned about your job than you are doing what's right and what's good for the people.
Concur. What's your thoughts, Ken?
John Adams went back to farming.
There you go.
He wanted to do that.
Yeah.
He said this shouldn't be a career.
Yeah, it shouldn't be.
Yeah, and I think that was my thoughts exactly. I think that's what our founding fathers envisioned.
Absolutely. City of Fort Smith, Arkansas. How are we doing in Fort Smith?
Well,
Is life still worth living?
yeah. Well, I think we've got issues. I think the first thing we need to do is hire a city administrator. We've been operating without one for 9 months now, and I think we're seeing a leadership vacuum. I've been pretty vocal about that. I think we need we need to decide what kind of leader we want. And I think that leader, from where I sit, needs to be conservative. I think that leader needs to be independent and able to make decisions. If we're going to have a city administrator form of government, and we're not going to switch to a mayoral form of government, then we need a city administrator. We've seen a city administrator on the left side of things, and I haven't been happy with that. But I think we're at a crossroads now. We can continue to go in the same path. We can hire, our deputy city administrator, and we're going to see the same thing we've seen, or we can go in a different path with a strong-minded, independent, conservative, in my estimation, that's going to look at this consent decree like a business. We've got a lot of money now since the voters approved the sales tax. But one of the things we're not doing in terms of this consent, because I think that's the issue that is really for 35 years has been a thorn in Fort Smith's sides. I mean, we're dumping millions of gallons of raw sewage into our community, into our river. And
sickening.
And,
And it's not just this board that's,
no.
I mean, it's been boards for decades.
It's been boards, it's been mayors, it's been city administrators,
City leaders,
government.
I mean, private leaders, I would imagine, that haven't stepped up to say, let's get this fixed. But back to what you said about an independent mayor. How can we have an independent mayor if he or she answers to a board, city board?
Well,
And let me preface that for my small little world that I'm.
You bet.
So when I was with Fort Smith Public Schools Police, I dealt with the superintendent a lot, who answered to the board.
yes.
Every time a board member called, in whatever important meeting or critical incident that we might be in, everything stops, runs out the door. I got to talk to the board. I mean, that's not being independent. So is that happening on the city level, do you think, with, let's say, a city manager who has to supposedly answer to the board? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts are this, and I'll give you an example. My thoughts is that we've had, and I was referring to an independent city administrator. We've got what's supposed to be a ceremonial mayor, although I think he has more authority than what we appreciate. And I think he's making more decisions. They may not be in the public meetings, but I think he's directing us in a direction. But what's happened in Fort Smith, unfortunately, is many times the board has no idea what's going on. I've got a lawsuit filed now, Brian Westney versus the city of Fort Smith, where we sued the city of Fort Smith and the former city administrator, Carl Gefkin, basically that he's making decisions without getting board approval. And this was occurring in these massive grants that Joe Biden was handing out on green energy. And he was entering into multiple memorandums of understanding with other entities, and the board had no idea. And we sued them.
Legal?
No. In my estimation, it's not legal. We'll see what Judge Magnus says probably in the next week or so. But the city's contention is, well, he may have acted outside of his authority, but he ratified that. The board ratified it after the fact.
Yeah,
well, that's
like
saying, I can go rob the bank, and once somebody gets onto me, I can take the money back and put it back in First National Bank and
get an official loan.
Yeah, and so that's not illegal. Yeah. Well, right. I disagree with the city's philosophy. That's a dangerous philosophy. If you give a city administrator certain responsibilities. I think we need an independent city administrator, and that's independent of what I call the downtown dudes. I think we've got folks in this community who make a lot of decisions, and they never show up for a board meeting. But I think they've got a lot of influence, and I think we need an independent city administrator, but who is going to keep our board of directors informed.
Right.
Because they need to approve actions.
So
They need to have the information.
So help me to understand though.
Okay.
When you say an independent, does that mean you think he should not? The board could not hire or fire him?
No.
Oh,
no.
Or what? help me
Yeah, I just think that
he needs to be independent minded.
Yes, independent minded.
Have the courage to make right decisions, not based on phone calls or business
Yes.
leader directives and things of that. Is that okay?
That-
I'm
that's-
tracking that.
Yeah,
I'm
that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Not independent in
Okay.
the other sense by any stretch.
So,
but-
flipping the coin a little bit on a strong mayor form of government, that's been talked about for forever, right?
Right.
Do you see advantages of that?
I do, but I think both of them are flawed if the citizens aren't paying attention. And
all government, you're right.
yeah,
concur.
I mean, Little Rock's a classic example. They changed their form of government. They've got a mayor now. It depends what mayor you get. I mean, it really
and then
depends.
he's tied down to the people that put him in office, and is he going to make decisions based on their needs and so forth, rather than the people's needs?
Right.
So
I mean,
it's-
if you don't get a
Yeah.
if you don't get a qualified mayor,
Mhm.
then well, it's not
knows
gonna
what
make any difference. And in my estimation, if the people aren't engaged, if the people aren't paying attention, I mean, why should we have ever had a consent decree that lasted, or sewers dumping into our river if the people
We fell asleep on the job.
when the people started getting active, when the people started speaking up, then we start seeing
action.
yeah.
You're
And-
right.
And
Okay,
if
so let's answer that question. You're suggesting that they pay attention. In your recommendation, how does the average citizen need to pay attention? What would you recommend that they do?
yeah, well, I think they need to come to board meetings.
Right.
I think they need to, you go to board meetings. I mean, we've seen some board meetings recently where the place was packed, but it's when people's back pockets get affected.
Yeah.
Their water rates go through the roof. People get very vocal, but and you said it earlier. We have lives. We have daughters. We have sons. We have wives. We want to go to the football games, and so we get distracted, and we allow government to operate without anyone keeping an eye on it. And
Well, thanks to honestly, thank you for helping us to stay alive and or keep an eye on it.
Well, and if they can't go to the meetings, they can at least go to the website and read the minutes, or in the case of the legislature, read the documents.
And part of the problem is,
I tell my students, it's right there, read it.
our media has left Fort Smith for the most part. They do cover some stories down here every now and then, but it's not like it used to be.
No.
Our last investigative reporter for the Times Record was Amy Sherrill,
yeah,
and that was many, many years ago. And she is somebody that I'm very fond of, and she kept me on my toes, because I knew if you better do it right or she's going to write a story about you. And that's a great incentive to help you to do the right thing.
Right.
So, I mean, and that's part of the people,
Sure.
the media is an extension
They're
of the
supposed to
public.
be.
They're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Sometimes they can go this way or that way. And now you got to watch BBC to find out what's really happening in America.
yeah.
But I mean, there's just so many things that have happened, I guess. And we're all, we're not even talking anymore. We're just doing this all the time.
Yeah.
The art of conversation is gone, and therefore and this overwhelms you at times where you're tired, you don't want to get involved. But we got to step up to the plate. I agree with you. We got to get more involved,
And we have to vote.
Gosh,
Yeah.
What was the last election? 40%, maybe?
Well,
Showed
that
up?
would be good.
the last election was the election for this 30-year extension of our taxes, and 4,000 people made that decision.
Right.
Out of 90,000 people.
4,000 people. One of the things I wanted to point out was you were talking about, what can we do to stay? Well, yeah, you can go to the website.
Right.
Back in 2017, I was fortunate enough to be part of a piece of legislation where we require boards to record meetings now.
Thank
And,
you.
Awesome.
And that is a such a simple idea, but so powerful. It's powerful in that Bill or Kevin or Joey can watch this the day after. We can watch
From
the
a
whole
recliner.
thing. We don't have
Absolutely.
to. We've got a game that night. Okay, we can watch it the next day. We can be informed. But more importantly, I've used it numerous times where, well, I didn't say that. Back in the day, it was like, I didn't say that in that meeting. Well, we have no record of it. But now I say, well, it's recorded, and that's important.
It's accountability too, though.
It is. Absolutely.
Well, transparency leads to
Transparency.
accountability.
That's right.
there you go. There you go. Wow. Cool. So the
So when are you running again? Yeah.
we get that a lot, or I say we when I'm following your Facebook page and everything. That's somebody always comments, Joey for mayor, Joey for. Have you ever considered running for office?
I have
Again?
I have, and I really kind of vacillate on that issue. Whether people have different roles in society, I know I'm a thorn in the side to city government or maybe a school board, or I'm going to file a lawsuit against Berryville for violating the Freedom of Information Act. We're going to have another one shortly against Conway, and it's just so we just have different roles, and I just wondered, I just wonder to myself, because it's important to me to hold government accountable, and if I run for office, am I going to be inhibited? Am I going to, not say things that need to be said, and so it's because I think I get the sense sometimes that people, and I've served on the school board for 6 years back in the day, but sometimes I get the sense that people like, well, if you want to always point stuff out, why don't you run for office?
Yeah.
And that's a
legit question.
It's a legit question, but for me, it's more as maybe my role is to try to advance transparency as much as possible, because FOIA has been something that's been my passion probably for the last 15 years. And, we've been able to, last session, we passed, since the FOIA was passed by Winthrop Rockefeller, who signed we passed a major piece of FOIA legislation that revolutionized Arkansas FOIA. We were really slipping in terms of FOIA through various Supreme Court decisions over the years that I was involved in, and especially in terms of open meetings. But we corrected that last session, and we created a definition, which was one of my goals. And I've been after the legislature for 10 years to create a definition of FOIA. We finally got one. We got legislators. As you said, we got people. We were working with people on the far left. I'm usually on the far right, but we had, and that's the thing I've seen with FOIA. It's not Republican. It's not Democrat. It's not liberal. It's not conservative. It's about freedom
openness
and accountability. And so we had people from all sides coming together, and we passed a beautiful bill.
Awesome.
And so,
That's great.
very important.
Good
and
job.
Something
Good job.
that
That
I'm
gives me
very
goosebumps right
proud
there.
of.
When I say people coming together for a good cause like that, and it's so important. That's what keeps government accountable.
Senator Clark Tucker, just wanted to give him
Good old Clark.
credit. We don't agree on many issues, but he did an outstanding job to what I'd say herd cats.
Yeah,
and get everybody to
That's
come
a lot
together.
of government, isn't it? Yeah.
He's a good one.
Getting organized.
He is a good one.
With the Sheriff's Association, we're strongly involved in legislation for law enforcement and stuff, public safety, and he was always a good senator to go to that partnered with us and so forth. I really enjoyed getting to work with Clark. So he's a good guy, a very good guy.
And extremely smart and conversational, and somebody who, Clark's always fighting against. He's on the left side of things. He's a Democrat, but it's what we've talked about, and kind of the conversation with Charlie Kirk is he's able to go into a committee meeting and have conversation, ask good questions, and sometimes bring Republicans back to where they should be, and ask great questions.
You know, that along with transitioning into Charlie, I was talking to my wife Karen last night about that, and and I watched a lot of his podcasts and some of the things on YouTube and so forth. And my wife wasn't all that familiar with him as much as I was. My son watched him a lot. And there's a lot of things that I didn't agree with. But what I always agreed with was how he presented it. He was able to create the ability to understand the other side. And when you communicate with respect and articulate yourself, I mean, you could almost say anything if you say it the right way. And Charlie said it the right way, and he helped me. He opened my eyes on numerous subjects that I don't know about that. I mean, then, well, I might not agree 100%, but now I understand where you're coming from.
Right.
And that's what we need in our nation.
Yeah.
We need more people like that who can whatever side you're on. I guarantee you, whatever side you're on,
Yeah.
there's something about it that I'm going to understand and associate with, and even get on board with. But when I shove, somebody once kind of used this analogy. Everybody loves a ribeye steak, but if I shove that ribeye steak down your throat, you ain't gonna like it.
Right.
But if give you a little bit of bite and help you to understand the cow, is all corn fed or grass fed. I mean, it's about being, man, a freaking true politician who wants to work for the people and understand and help people understand where we're at.
We've
and
gone
what
back
happened.
over a word consensus before in leadership. And what does that mean to you in this situation or in other situations with issues, whatever the issue might be? Isn't it at the end of the day consensus? Isn't that what we're all looking for?
That's
Yeah.
what a good leader does. He brings people to the table that some might already agree, some might not agree, but they get a consensus. And that might not be the perfect thing that this
But that's
guy
how you
originally.
get things done, right?
That's how you lead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I go back to Clark Tucker on the FOIA bill. Clark said, "I never thought I'd get Joey McCutcheon in the municipal league to agree on anything."
Right.
But it did show that if we listen, if we pay attention to the other side, if we really truly care about getting something done, that we may have to give a little. And I'm not much one to want to give much, but but occasionally, in our system of government, you got to give a little bit.
You do.
You can't, because if you try to get the whole enchilada, you might end up with nothing.
You might get the napkin. There you go.
Yeah,
Right.
That's right.
But
And the bill.
Yeah, it's people have
That's right.
forgotten to. You got to seek to understand.
Yeah.
God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. You got to seek to understand. But anyway, that was a horrible tragedy. As of they released, I guess, and for the people watching this is on the anniversary of 9/11 as well.
Right.
It's a horrible time, and you just want to take this little moment to thank all the military and law enforcement and first responders who every single day run towards danger and do it heroically and get it right 99.9% of the time. We're human. We
Sure.
hose it every now and then. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But these people get up every single day and put this thing on their chest, representing goodness, and this is a great time to reflect on that. So all my former coworkers and friends now that are still in the business, whether you're a paramedic or a firefighter or law enforcement officer in the military, thank you for what you all do. I really appreciate that.
Amen.
And this chart, we got to do better. I mean, how can you just not want to hear what somebody has to say that you'd be willing to assassinate them? we've got to tone
whether it be in
down.
Minnesota or Utah
Yeah.
or wherever. We've lived through this, our generation, and then generations before us. We all have this, I guess, unfortunate history in America that we know in our lifetime people who were assassinated. We've read about it. We've lived it. Our parents, our grandparents saw it happen too in their lifetime. And when will it stop?
Yeah, violence is not the answer.
No, it's not.
Martin
It's
Luther
not.
King spoke about that,
Yeah.
and
And look what
it's just-
great things he did by not being violent. You know,
Right.
why can't we take that lesson?
Yeah,
You know, and you know what I am glad to hear is people on the right and people on the left condemning this violence, condemning it. You know, it's just not what we are supposed to be. And even though this happened, it's not who we are.
Right.
You know, this is an outlier. You know, I don't think we should, you know, be completely, you know, beat down. I have faith in our country. I have faith in good people, and good will win. You know,
It always does.
it always does. And I think God takes unfortunate, horrible things such as this, and He will turn it into something good. You know, we just have to look for it, and we have to find it, and we have to seek it. So
yeah. I think some are thinking this might shut down our First Amendment, our willingness to get out and have those like Charlie did. I mean, he was a First Amendment advocate. He invited conversation, and
That's right.
that was so good. And we don't want to shut that down.
No.
We don't want people to be so scared to have a chilling effect where they don't speak their mind, because we need that. We need to have these tough conversations. Because these issues aren't easy.
no,
You know, every issue we're dealing with today is not easy.
and they're
I mean,
not going away unless we talk about it.
Right.
You know, so no, it's a crazy world we're living in, but at the same time, it's still a good world, and we can't let evil win. You know, we never can, and we gotta pray for peace. I think, you know, we got to stand up against evil.
Yes.
You know, all over the world. You know, but mostly here in our own nation and so forth. So, back to the consent decree changing. What's the answer? I mean, do you think the board of directors? Do you think we're going in the right direction to get this taken care of?
Here's my concern. I mean, we just passed a tax, and we're going to dump a lot of money into it. And one of the things that I'm really pushing hard for is I think we need to hire an outside expert who deals in these situations. We've been going 35, 40 years, and I think Lance McAvoy does a great job with his skills. But there's a reason there's experts who can come in and, we're going to spend some money to do it, but we're going to
Get it done right.
We're going to do it right. We've got money to do it right. So I've been pushing for the idea that we should have an outside expert firm, engineering firm, come in here and tell us what we need to do. And then I feel confident that all of these dollars are going
in the right direction.
In the right direction at the right time.
Yeah.
And I know that this consent decree, it ties our hands in terms of what we can do at certain times, but I think we need an expert. And
are you getting any? What kind of response are you getting? Are they agreeing? Do we have any people on the board that agree? We're talking how many millions of dollars that we're going to spend that we would not be willing to get a subject expert.
We've heard the figure $800 million.
Why would we not want to do it right?
Yeah. And I just think, if you want to know about sheriffs, you hire Bill Hollenbeck. If you want to know about law, maybe you hire me.
Yes.
That type of thing. We hire experts for a reason, and we're talking a massive amount of money. And to hire an expert, it's going to cost you a little bit. And it's just like this city administrator. We can advertise it on our website, but this is a major decision, and that cost will be absorbed very quickly by bad decisions.
Sure.
And so So I think that's really important.
Well, I think I might have to shoot some emails off here in the next week about that same idea, and hopefully our audience will do the same. I think that's just a great idea. It's doing your due diligence to spend the people's money in the right way, making sure that we're getting it done right.
We just talked about it with the prison. I
Yeah.
mean, and that word due diligence. I mean, the folks, Adam Watson, and they presented a definition of due diligence. And I think Fort Smith now, they have the dollars to do it. Let's make sure let's not guess.
Let's get it done right.
Yeah.
Mayor's budget.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of talk about reducing that budget. His mission is primarily ceremonial, supposedly. And there may be conversations and the influence that he certainly has, behind doors and so forth. But what is his budget right now?
Well, I ended up suing the city because the mayor was spending public dollars on private missions, and that's unconstitutional. I mean, it's an illegal exaction, and it's unconstitutional. Article 12, Section 5 of our state constitution. But we learned that $668,000 to the mayor's office. I mean, that is an immense amount of money. Before we voted on the tax increase, the board went through this process of we're going to cut here and we're going to cut there. But I still don't think and in fact, I think tonight they're having a meeting, a study session to look more at budgets, which I think's important.
Okay.
But you got to ask yourself, I mean, a ceremonial mayor with that type of budget, I mean, you look at the advertising budget, you look at various things like that. I mean, we can't afford that right now. I mean, our general fund is being depleted, and there's legitimate concern. We've got a couple of potential crises on the horizon in Fort Smith. One of them is taking care of our cemeteries.
Yes.
I mean that is a huge issue. They put out private folks have tried to do what they can, and I applaud them because I believe that we have got to take care of our cemeteries. Oak Cemetery back in 2020 was in a state of disrepair, and we got pretty vocal about it, and they've done a good job.
Yes.
But now can the city take on $1 million a year and $600,000 of new equipment? And again, this $1 million a year to take care of these cemeteries is it's a permanent deal. I mean, it's year after year, but it's got to be
grass still
done. I mean,
grows.
people deserve that dignity that are being buried here. The other issue, Bill, and I'm kind of jumping off, but our homeless situation. I think people have to come together, and we have to support Hope Campus. They're having hard financial times, but and they've talked about that they could close their doors.
Sure.
And to me, if that ever happens, I mean, I've spent some time down there, and if that ever happens, we think what we see now is a problem. It'll be a major crisis, and people have different ideas about how to solve that. But we need to work on that.
I can remember when they first were talking about Hope Campus and thought it was a great idea. And I don't remember what the funding source originally was. Was it through businesses or charitable donations? Can you recall what the funding source was?
Not exactly.
And then what happened to that funding source? Was there a certain amount of mismanagement? I don't know. I mean, why now? Is it just because of inflation? Is there areas that of professional accountability that could help out by having a professional bookkeeper? They may already, and I'm asking questions that I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it may already, but I mean, what?
But I know that they wait on grants. They apply for grants. And these dollars don't come in timely.
Right. Okay.
I know that there are some who believe that private business is making some pretty big bucks on the side in out of that project. and probably has some data to support that.
Wow.
But I think we, and then we talk about the homeless situation, and if we don't talk about mental health in the same breath, we're fooling ourselves.
Yeah, you got that right.
And it's just like the governor. I mean, we can lock everybody up, but some of these people have mental health problems, and so that's another side. And this is where we got to get out of this. Well, I'm tough on crime, and I know you're tough on crime. Yeah. Okay, and that's why you want to build this prison, Governor. I understand that, so you can say you're tough on crime when you go run for president. But but that ain't solving the Arkansas problem.
It's not.
Right.
It's not. But you're so right. I was a major advocate for mental health. I noticed that a large portion of people that were being locked up in the county jail had mental health issues, and if our law enforcement officers were trained in mental health first aid, and then we had an actual place to take them, then you know what? I mean, that people say, oh, that's so liberal. I said, no, it's not. That's conservative, because here's the deal. Do you want to pay for somebody sitting in jail 3 meals a day, free medical, free dental, paying for salaries of people to guard them, or do you want them to go to a stabilization unit, which we were able to get, with the help of Governor Hutchinson,
right?
Get them back on their medication, and now they're working for a living, paying taxes.
That's right.
That is the conservative viewpoint of, rather than this cycle of let's just lock them all up, throw them in jail. That's my money. Let's fix the thing, because the thing that I learned working with the governor and other sheriffs was that it's medication education as well. Here's some medication, take it, and then you walk out the door. And now, and sometimes the thing is, well, I'm taking these, I feel good, so therefore I don't need to take this anymore.
Right.
Well, and that's just lack of education, and now doctors are getting better, psychiatrists and counselors are getting better. We have a great partnership with Western Arkansas Guidance and Counseling.
Yes.
And I haven't, since leaving office, I haven't paid too much attention on how much local law enforcement is utilizing the stabilization unit. I mean, it's proven that slow down recidivism rate on offenders, by keeping them on their medication and getting them the help. So you're spot on. We have to have a holistic approach to mental health and homelessness, and maybe it's time for the community to pony up some money to keep this center open.
Well, and I looked at the church community, that hopefully churches will, if Hope Campus is in dire straits, then maybe they can take a small percentage and monthly pay, and we help
Sure.
with something that's stable,
Right.
an income that's stable,
Right. Absolutely.
that we can depend on, and I think that helps everyone.
and have a location that it goes to, rather than a hodgepodge. Here's some for you, or here's some. There needs to be a, maybe Hope Campus is that. Kind of like what the United Way is. With all the charitable organizations that they support and so forth. So, but
quite frankly, I think we give over $1 million to the animal shelter. And I'm not sure we're giving any money on the mental health issues. And to me, that's it just doesn't strike me as right.
Wow.
But I'm not the expert in it. But
so you we talked earlier how you kind of help the underdog, the little guy, a lot. And again, I've known several people that you've helped. Coach Curry. That whole situation where I guess he comes to work one day and finds out he's no longer head coach of the Northside football program. What the heck happened there? I mean, we'll talk about lack of transparency, talk about lack of communication. Was there ever a plan, on an improvement plan that was given to him beforehand, or was this just a wake up and you're out?
Well, there wasn't an improvement plan, because he was never told that he did anything wrong. He was told that Coach, you're not going to be hired. You're not coming back in this capacity. And it wasn't as if anyone had ever talked to him. I mean, and that's the really disturbing. Coach Curry is one of the best people and a very fine football coach.
Godly man.
Yeah, he took some steps with some athletes, and he tried to change the culture.
Sure.
And when you do that and you lose players, it's going to hurt your win losses.
Right.
But quite frankly, the wins and losses at Northside High School under Coach Curry were almost identical to the wins and losses of Kim Dameron at Southside High School. So what's the difference?
No
Why
joke,
does he
right.
lose his job? Now we're in a lawsuit where they're claiming that we didn't reassign Coach Curry. Well, you know, you put him from campus coordinator and high school football coach, have him sitting in a detention center for frankly a couple of months this summer where not one kid was coming through there. I mean, that's a waste of but you know, I really as you say, I mean, I'm helping Coach Curry because I want to help him and because it's wrong. Lou Holtz, I played a year for the Hogs, and Lou Holtz used to talk about the do right rule, and this is the do right rule. I just feel so bad for Coach Curry.
So do I. He always had a positive. You know, when my son was playing football at Northside, he was quarterback, and his senior year he didn't get the starting position, and it devastated him. You know, and he had a tough time, but he stuck with it. You know, and Coach Curry always encouraged him. Your time's coming. And sure enough, it came. And then halfway through the season, you know, he's starting as quarterback, and my son and I would see him up at 5 a.m, along with Coach Fuller, picking kids up because they couldn't even get to practice, and he's waking kids up and holding them accountable, and you're right, the culture, you know, some of it probably needed changing. Tough love is what he was trying to show.
Yeah.
Through love, you know, that you're going to be held accountable for some of your actions. And you know, I don't know if it was the parents that revolted, that got to the school board, or the superintendent. What was the process how did that just happen?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I've got my theories on it.
Yeah.
And
if you don't want to mention, I respect that.
You know,
Seriously.
I think it was a particular school board member who wanted him gone, and I think it happened. But if I've got a young man or a son coming up, Coach Curry would be who I would want to coach him, because he's going to do it the right way. When I see a man get out of his car, walk around to the back of the car and go to the other side of the car and open the door for his wife every time when people aren't watching, or when they're going to the car, he opens. I mean,
speaks volumes.
I mean, he's just a quality human being, and quite frankly, a heck of a football coach.
Yeah.
And I'm really disappointed in what happened with him, and clearly. I've been pretty vocal about that. But,
well, thank you for being vocal. There's a large portion of the community that feels the same way. So
you know, if we're gonna, to me, it's a matter of, hey, if our standard in Fort Smith is you got to win games, then okay, let's go over to Southside and let's virtually, you know, let's start with the basketball program and look at their record, and let's boot those people. But they just booted him, and he's without a job right now. He's without a job, and you know it's tough. I mean, you know, when
he's separated from Fort Smith schools now?
Yes. Oh yeah.
I did not know that.
He sure is. And
so, your candid thoughts of Fort Smith Public School administration. We've had a change in superintendent. Do you see hope?
I haven't seen it yet. No, I haven't seen it. I think the HR department is a disaster. I see. Let's talk about what they did with their English teacher, who was teaching a beautiful lesson on civil rights. One that the author of the book, who was a member of the Little Rock Nine, wrote, and he asked a question that has the N word in it,
That was in the book.
And a student, I guess they woke up long enough to realize he just used the word, didn't give no context, sends it out, and immediately he's paraded down to the principal's office, and immediately didn't teach another day. And then what the school district does is they turn him into the state and they want to take his license away. I mean, that is wrong.
That's dead wrong.
I mean,
it really is.
I mean, we had one of the Little Rock Nine in an interview in Little Rock say, "Are you kidding me?" We actually played her clip where she said, "You're firing him? You're terminating him? No, he should be rewarded." I mean, we need to teach, and this is another passion of mine, history. We need all history on display, the good, the bad, and the ugly, so we can learn from it. Otherwise, we're going to walk down the same path again. And I don't care if it's Confederate history, it's American history. We've got to respect history. That's what happens in these other countries. They forget
Can't
about
change history. You can't change it.
And you know, and give credit to Senator Mark Johnson. I helped him pass a law, the Monument Protection Act. And Arkansas's got to go through a process. If you're going to take up a monument, then you better you go through the process. You get your waiver. You go before the History Commission, and really a good law. But it required a crisis. It required folks going crazy down on the Little Rock Capitol and painting and tearing down and during those tough George Floyd times. And again, those are times when I've been called a racist, I've been called this, but hey, believe me, I stand up for Felix Curry. I don't look at his skin color. I look at what kind of man he is.
Right.
And to me, that's what's important. I look at Bill Hollenbach. I don't care if you're white, black, or whatever. I want to know what kind of character you have. And isn't that what Martin Luther King wanted?
Yep,
That's right.
And as long as we're protecting individual rights, then we're going to be on the right side of things.
Right.
And
You're going to be on the right side of history for
Yeah.
sure. Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, this has been a great discussion.
We could go for
I've enjoyed
hours.
it.
We probably can, and I know how busy you are.
Yes.
So coming here, making time for us, I certainly appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you and what y'all are doing.
Well, good deal. Thank you. This is a great program that they have here at UA Fort Smith, and they're trying to develop a podcasting aura about the University of Arkansas. We're the first podcast, which we're pretty happy
Well, there was
with.
a podcasting class before.
Podcasting class,
Right.
that's correct. But we're the first official podcast. And so we got a lot of the criminal justice students that are interested, a lot of the history students interested. So a lot of good things happening out here at the University of Arkansas Fort Smith. So I appreciate
bet.
what they do. And it's our secret little gym. And this old boy right here ain't too bad either.
Yeah.
He does pretty good.
He's pretty good, isn't he?
talk about history. This is you two can sit down and probably.
Well, you mentioned both of the
talk forever.
situations of English and history, and my head spins, and I taught high school for 11 years too, so I know that rule of it too, and that side, and it's a hard job.
Yeah.
And you hire these coaches and you want them to win and lose, and at the end of the day, that might be the only reason why some of those students go to that school.
Right.
Is because of that coach,
Absolutely.
or that teacher, or that book, or whatever it is, and kind of makes you question when they can them and
It's
how many people that affects.
Yeah. Well, again, we've lost the ability to seek to understand. Most people react first.
Yes.
And I have seen that with the school district, with not just coaches, but other, members of the district as well. I think we got amazing teachers, amazing staff, and amazing students and so forth. And I'm hoping that this new superintendent will turn it around and listen to some of the staff members, and because they know who's doing right as directors or supervisors and so forth. And
Right.
And horrible attitude, is not what we need in our district. We need good leadership, and that's what reflects good attitude. So.
I agree.
All right.
It creates morale amongst the teachers.
Yes.
And I've heard there's a morale problem.
Mm.
And, you've got to listen to people. You've got to respect people.
One of the, I think the deputy superintendent Dr. Bone. I don't know if you know her or not, but I'm excited for her position. I think she's somebody who has great positivity, and in my position as chief of police of the Portsmouth schools, she listened.
Oh,
I
good.
mean, and that was something that was greatly appreciated. You know, so it's let's hope they can turn it around.
Yeah.
You know, that's because it's a win for everybody if they do. No doubt
We've
about
gotta
it.
have
So,
it.
absolutely. Well, hey, thank you so very much again.
you.
I really appreciate what you do.
Thank you for
Yeah.
rooting for the underdog.
That's exactly right. No joke. So, hey, we're going to sign off here again from the University of Arkansas at the Sound Collection Lab. This is we're going to be signing off. And once again, if you like this content, make sure you subscribe and like this episode. Go back to the other episodes. Make sure you subscribe and like those episodes as well. So,
And if you don't, then keep your mouth shut.
there you go. Yeah, don't spread the word
No,
about
I'm just kidding.
about our podcast.
Right.
Bill Hollenbeck's Behind the Badge. See you next week.
Cut.
All right.
Bill Hollenbeck's.
Behind the badge.
I like.
5 Delta. Double Hickey, 911. Outside.
Laundry Park, 3600 block, Redondo, 6 Zebra, out of beyond 173.
I'm going to be off the air for just a minute. Now I got to go inside to see if they have one available. Hold on. Stand by.